Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of the Mana Dorks Podcast. I'm your host, Nick, with my co-host, Kevin.
Howdy, howdy.
Hello, hello. How are you, sir?
Doing fine.
Yeah. You keeping warm down there in Utah?
Trying. It's we've had snow on the ground for like 3 weeks now, which is
Rough.
unusual.
Has it been like out of season cold for you down there?
Yeah. So usually it doesn't start getting cold till mid-December. So now, but it was cold all through November. Snowed once, and the same snow has stuck around, which is very unusual for where I'm at
Yeah.
in South Central Utah.
It's been like that up here, too, in the Pacific Northwest. It's been uncharacteristically cold. There we go. I can words correctly. It's been, down in like the 30s, which I understand. Oh, it's not that cold. But in here in the Portland area, it's pretty damn cold. But strangely, it's been getting more temperate the past week or so. But anyways, enough about the weather. Today, we are going to be talking about the best of and the worst of for the end of the year for 2024. But before we get into that, I want to do some shilling. If you want to go ahead and go down to the link down below, you will see my Reddit links for my card game, Frontline TCG. It is a card game themed around the Titanfall and Apex Legends universe, but the Apex stuff, that'll come out next year. But right now, this is primarily a play testing type of game. I have no intention of making money off of it. I just want people to come in, check it out, play the game, test the mechanics, tell me if it's bad or not, or if it's great. But enough of the shilling for now. We will go ahead and move on to our first subject, which is for the best of the year. It's not necessarily an award type show, but we want to highlight the best and the worst that has gone on this year. And I think we will do the ordering of you first, Kevin, and then me. So first off, we'll start off with the standard sets. So Kevin, what is your favorite standard set for the year?
I am actually going to go with Bloomborough, which surprises me because when it was announced, I'm just like, oh man, the furry set. The cutesy little raccoons. But they did it good. They did it well, which was surprising. It ended up being kind of more like an Everdell. It had a nice little fantasy theme to it. They basically took the theme and implemented the magic of magic properly to this set, which is more than I can say for the rest of them. Like I actually think Dustborn was the least worst of the other ones that were released. Like, I guess we'll get to the worst sets later on, but like Murders of Karlov Manor, it just didn't work. A bunch of them just didn't work. But Bloomborough surprised me. I didn't think it was going to work. I'm like, here we go, and it was just a really whimsical, fun. The fantasy theme hit perfectly with it, and the mechanics were. I'm okay. I like the limited environment was good, and the mechanics were kind of fun. There were some things were a little too pushed, for my opinion, and the power creep was definitely prevalent in Bloomborough. But I think all in all, it was just a really well done set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed Bloomborough as well. For me, call me sexist if you will, but I consider Bloomborough to be like the girlfriend set. Like if you got a girlfriend and you want to get her into Magic, I think Bloomborough is like one of the better avenues besides Foundations, just because of how approachable it is. And like I said, it's very cute. Lots of little critters, little squirrels and otters and all that kind of stuff. And just the whole red wall esque aesthetic to it, I found is to be a really nice compliment and almost gives the set kind of a Lorwyn type feel. Mm-hmm. Foundations aside, Bloomborough is the most magic, like classic magic feeling set that we've had probably since Dominaria United. Maybe.
Yeah, so many people have talked about too that they wish that Block would have come back for Bloomborough. We didn't get it. Well, first of all, the set releases were so close, so we had Bloomborough and then right into Dustborn. So no one had a lot of time to really get immersed in the world, which is still something I miss about Magic, where you really did get immersed into the theme of the block set And it had almost that perfect time where you're pretty much done with the block appropriately. It lasts about a year, and then you're moved on to the next one. And yeah, so Bloomburrow was just, that's the one complaint about Bloomburrow, was just so quick that
Yeah.
it was released and then we're on to other stuff. So
Yeah, that's a big problem with Magic that they've had for a while, is if you like a set, you better enjoy what you can out of it almost immediately, because it's going to be out of favor within the next 3 to 4 weeks anyways, or until the next preview drops. But looking back, Bloomburrow, I'm glad that I asked you for your list, because I chose Bloomburrow as my set of the year. So we'll talk about what my favorite set of the year is, and we've already talked about it plenty on this channel before, but Foundations is going to be my set of the year. Not because I think it's the best, but because when you compare it to the other two standard sets for the year, Foundations kind of clears the other two, at least in terms of just general likability, because, well, Foundations is the most Magic-like set, and agreeable, I think, is a term that I would like to use to define Foundations the best. Is like, it's the most agreeable, it's the most rudimentary type Magic set that we've had since, I probably want to say, like, core set 2013, maybe. I wasn't a big fan of 14 or 15 or Origins, but when it comes to just like general, like, good Magic experiences, this feels like this is the first, like, good, decent core type experience that we've had in the better part of a decade. You disagree?
no, I mean, just I am not a fan of Foundations. I just think it's just the main reason I think that I don't like Foundations, I think it put the nail in the coffin for Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now Standard is just so long.
But what about Pioneer Masters? You could play Pioneer on the phone.
Yeah,
now.
It was so successful they didn't even want to turn it into a paper, which apparently, like, that got scrapped. I think that at least that was one of their smart decisions. And
yeah,
what I've heard is that was going to be a paper set. They're going to try to milk that, and then they're like, probably don't have any. They saw how bad Commander Masters did, and yeah, so.
I wonder if there's a nondescript dumpster somewhere, like in a coast in uncharted waters, where it's just piles of paper Pioneer Masters just rotting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I ever got into printing, but I don't know. I'm kind of worried in the future that they're going to try to do something like Modern Horizons and then have like Pauper or Pioneer Horizons. I'm like, oh, come on.
Oh, what's going to happen. Now that Modern's all but dead at this point.
The whole point for Pioneer was to have a place for rotated cards. The whole point for Modern was to have a place for rotated cards. Now Modern is now Horizons, the format.
We did have that. We did have that era of Pioneer, but then COVID happened, so we didn't get to really enjoy it for...
Well, Pioneer was pretty good right before Foundation. I mean, right before this latest... Well, right before the 3-year expansion to Standard. I mean, the RCQ season, this past RCQ season for Pioneer was one of the most successful as far as movement in the market plus attendance. Like, you could definitely see that the RCQ season was having an effect on the purchasing of Magic the Gathering. So, which is actually a change because this is something I follow a lot. It's just the price of cards, since I have a store and have a channel that's supposedly dedicated towards it. But is RCQ seasons were doing nothing for even so. RCQ seasons is the regional cup qualifiers. Is that what they call it? I can't remember what exactly it stands for. And it's just a path. It's you win those, you have a path to the bigger tournaments. But there were years that they didn't even budge the market. Like, they'd go from Modern to Standard, and it's just like, well, the people that participated. But this past Pioneer one really affected the market, and now the Standard one we're starting to see affecting the market. So we'll have to see how the Modern one works too. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Just being, I've always preferred a lower power format that's more introductory, and that's the kind of the problem with Foundations too, is I think that so many of the cards are outclassed in Foundations. So there are obvious ones that aren't, that they felt like they just pushed in, that I think are going to be problematic for the format for a long time. But I don't know. It's I guess something I'm just gonna have to live with. But I'd love them to bring back, like, at least block then or something. I just crave a lower powered format than Standard.
Yeah. You're telling me you're not looking forward to a Sanguine Bond combo
Well,
standard?
it's not gonna see play in standard. So
It's
I mean,
too slow.
there's tons of cheese. You still have there's plenty of 2 card combos already. That
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean,
They need
my
to
main
just
thing
bring
of
Splinter Twin into standard. Just
I mean,
hats
it
off.
honestly, I don't know if it even be. I mean, it can easily be unbanned in modern. So
It needed to never be banned in the first place, but that's a whole different
yeah.
conversation. So tell me, what is the worst standard set of the year for you?
So I'm gonna. This is weird because I usually don't care about theme because I'm always this person that like I'll play Wingspan or I'll play like viticulture and board games that have no like those most boring themes ever. But I like the mechanics of the game. So typically I stick with mechanics, but Outlaws just rub me the wrong way. Maybe because I am a cowboy. I live in, cowboy country, and I've kind of not enjoyed Westerns, but I've kind of enjoyed more of where you can kind of mix fantasy
Mm.
and Western culture together and done right. But man, Alice Thunder Junction was just a miss. All the characters, like we like to say that it's cowboys in drag. It's like it's just or
It is very, very performative of a set.
yeah,
Like it literally is just like a standard Magic set, just slapped with a cowboy coat of paint. Like
and it
the mechanics in there doesn't even really evoke. I think evoke. They don't really evoke a sense of the Wild West and the
yeah, I was
desert,
thinking
really.
more Red Dead Redemption type thing, or even there's some or even like more like an Indiana Jones. I mean, that's not really a cowboy, but I mean, still, it's like rather than oh man, it was just gaudy. That's the way to put it. Overdressed, everything was just like over the top. The yeah, I just couldn't get into Outlaws, and I thought I would. Like everyone was like complaining about a cowboy theme, and I actually thought it would be kind of cool because they've been able to do ninja themes okay, and things. There's been plenty of things in the past too that I think they've done reasonably well. So
Hmm.
it's kind of sad that Outlaws just turned into a kind of a mess.
To me, there were certain aspects of Outlaws that I liked enough to buy a booster box, but in retrospect, one of my major complaints for the lack of blocks that you were talking about earlier is that, Outlaws of Thunder Junctions really outlines the concern that we are just in a theme park standard where
Yeah,
it's just you get one world for a month and then you wait a couple months and then you get another world and then you wash that down with a Horizons or Master set. Then you get another theme park set and there's just not enough time for any of this stuff to settle. And, I don't really expect, like, in a future where Outlaws of Thunder Junction had been a year-long block where those two extra sets would have helped to really sell the idea. Maybe it would have. Maybe it would have had more in-depth mechanics that actually reflect, classic Americana 1800s style, like pioneering and exploration. But with what we got in the set, it feels very much like I don't know if you collected Legos as a kid, but it reminds me a lot of those old like Wild West Legos where it's just very, bare bones and just like, oh hey, look at this, it's high noon time, and you know, part of me kind of wishes that they had like a native type conflict just because of my ancestry, and I would like to see that just because it'd be kind of funny to see that. But also at the same time, it's just like, I don't even want to know if they would try and approach that in that way. They would have their safe kind of wokish approach to it, and that would just pervert the whole idea. But for now, I'm okay with them perverting cowboy culture, I guess, even though they didn't necessarily do a good job at it. But my least favorite standard set for the year is going to be Murders at Karlov Manor. Well, I was going to say at first it's because of the confusion, because Karlov makes you think of Innistrad more than it does Ravnica. But maybe my reasoning is a bit unfounded, and it's that I am sick of Ravnica. I'm just generally tired of that setting. There's not enough there that really, keeps me engaged as a player. It feels very samey. Like if you look at the aesthetic designs of the original Ravnica and then you compare it to Return to Ravnica and then Guilds of Ravnica block, there's just no dynamics. It all just looks very samey, and I remember Sam, and he made a video about, the architectural design of it, and it does look very nice, but to me, it just doesn't scream Magic. And one of the problems with Murders of Karlov Manor is not only is it Ravnica, but it's Ravnica, but all the denizens have detective hats, and they try to really implement like this Clue style approach to it. Mechanic wise, it's not very memorable. The only things that really come to memory that I can say that I actually enjoyed from the set were the lands, which those have nothing to really deal with, investigations or anything like that, or even Ravnica in general. And so for me, that set was a complete and total miss. And I keep forgetting that it came out this year. This feels like a 2023 set, not a 2024 set.
Yeah, it was definitely a miss. It's the whole theme. Like they thought, and this was a complete miss of what they were trying to do with like a detective style theme. Like the characters are so weird, like you said, the whole suspect mechanic. Yeah, everything was a mess. I thought Murders of Karlov Manor was definitely one of the worst received sets in a long time, and rightfully so, because it was kind of a clunky mechanically. The detective thing was just weird again too. Suspect. Yeah, I'm with you. It was a bad set.
Yeah, just not very good. Not very evocative at all. So, tell me, Kevin. Well, actually, you know what? I don't think you have any, but I guess we can use this as an excuse to just talk about why you don't have a favorite non-standard release this year.
All right, so like, what are my Aftermath wasn't this year, and that was last year,
last
right?
year,
So,
yeah.
I mean, so what has come out? Supplemental products this one. So we had the Clue edition of Karlov Manor,
Yeah.
which was just they could have done cooler stuff with it. They tried to have this like, was there a collectibility element? You can get like a shock land out of it. I don't know. It was just a weird. They could have done a lot better, in my opinion, by trying to make the game. Should have focused at least more on the Magic side of it. Again, honestly, I haven't played it, but from those that have, it hasn't been an enjoyable experience from anyone I've heard. Clue fans, Magic fans, huge miss. My problem with a lot of these supplemental products is that I hate. I mean, what does even come out? What are you talking about? Like the Universe Beyond. That's it. I mean, what is an expansion set or a supplemental product? Would it be?
Yeah, I guess you could consider like the commander decks that come around, like the standard sets. I guess Modern Horizons 3.
Yeah.
Universes Beyond Assassin's Creed.
I guess I could pick them apart one by one. Modern Horizons 3 can't stand it because it's just. I don't like the idea of power creeping a format that was meant to play rotated cards. And I've always had a problem with Modern Horizons 3 for that reason. And in Modern Horizons 3 was the worst offender. Like every time I think they can't outdo Modern Horizons 2, they, hold my beer, let's do Modern Horizons 3, which not only warps Modern, it warps Legacy. And I mean, it was just in an era where I don't think that was needed. Like, probably should have delayed it for a year or two. I mean, they're coming out for it too quickly. And what was Commander Masters this year? Or was that last year? Jeez, everything's been so
last year, yeah.
Jeez, yeah, everything is. I can't even keep track of these things. So I'm trying to think of it in a. There used to be a good timeline based upon how much things cost at distribution level of what was still available, and so I'm thinking like Commander Masters wasn't that long ago because it's still available. But anyway, yeah, and then the Universes Beyond, I'm pretty lukewarm on them. So, I mean, maybe I'll feel different about Final Fantasy because it's something that I actually was a fan of. And I've never played a Fallout game. I have no clue about Fallout. I actually had to like Google the Fallout theme to see what the hell was going on with Fallout because I've heard bits and pieces here and didn't want to be like left in the dust and not know what it's about. I mean, Doctor Who was last year too, wasn't it? Or was this year?
Yeah, Doctor Who, I believe, was the end of last
year,
like November of last year. Or
what they have
like
is that the only thing that now is Fallout?
I think because they also had Assassin's Creed, but that was quote unquote modern legal
Yeah,
you know,
Assassin's Creed was kind of a
expansion.
weird delivery. Like the problem with that card is too it was too small. And they didn't do anything like Commander decks. That would have been the perfect place for Commander decks. Would be
Yeah.
something like Assassin's Creed. That's where they should have put the Commander decks,
It feels
which
like
was
that was Ubisoft's hands on there saying, yo, you need to make us as much money as possible. So it needs to be in collector's boosters and regular boosters.
sure. So do them both.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing. They could have they and again that's one that I would have preferred more of a skin based, where they take a lot of existing cards and just reskinned them,
Yeah.
with names, and that way like I still do think, and now it's way too late now. Like what they were going to try to do with the original Walking Dead is they're like, okay, we'll make Magic cards so you don't have to play with Walking Dead, and then I would like to see Universe Beyond retroactively instead of like, okay, we're going to make these new cards for this, and then print Magic cards. Maybe have that be the exception and try to reskin things with just names on them is what I think is
I'm
better. But
interested
again,
in
we're in
seeing how they try to implement assassins into the Magic world. I mean, you could do it,
yeah.
but the Assassin's Creed set was so heavily focused on assassin and the free running mechanic that it's kind of hard to see how they would integrate that back into the Magic sphere without doing a huge like assassin themed expansion.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't really make sense. Like if any universes beyond felt like an expansion of the reserve list, the Assassin's Creed kind of feels like that'd be the most likely one, just because there's such a large density of cards that would be difficult to reprint out, that some of the availability on some of those cards would probably be low. But at the same time,
they'll just
those
do
packs
drops.
are dirt cheap anyways, so yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, it just the problem with that set, it did suffer a little bit from the same thing Aftermath did. The set was too small, and they marketed it too big. So it's like you open up in a couple. I mean, you open up like a box and you have everything, right?
Yeah,
and
that
so
that
it's
I'll
like,
talk about more because I have that on my worst of list. But yeah, I have my own opinions on that.
so it
And it has
almost
to
should
deal
have
with
been,
that.
what do they call them? A living card game type expansion.
Yeah,
I don't know,
almost.
but
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of weird that they, again, this is where maybe they could have put the Magic versions of them in the sets, but then people would open up Magic version. I don't know. It's a mess. I think that the problem, actually, out of all the universes beyond, I think I mind Assassin's Creed the least because I think it works the best with crossing over to Magic because it's games do with characters and world design. I think do a lot better as universes beyond. Like I guess Warhammer did really well too, but like Doctor Who and those are little bit. They really have to stretch to try to turn them into Magic, and it gets
yeah.
really
Doctor Who was a
wonky.
huge miss. That's the
But
one.
I mean,
That's
the Assassin's Creed worked really well because people wanted to build with there was assassins, and I mean there's an assassin tribal before in. Can't remember what set had it. Was that Lorwyn time? I can't remember which one had the assassins kind of sub
maybe,
theme.
but the reprints in that set were also very iffy. Like if the best of your reprint equity for assassins is Royal Assassin, that's kind of
Yeah,
an issue. But we're still on the topic of best of lists. I guess we'll get mine out of the way. So my best expansion that's non-standard legal, for me, it's the Universes Beyond Fallout Commander decks. Now, like you, I wasn't necessarily into Fallout. I had played some of Bethesda's other games like the Elder Scrolls series, but I never really got into Fallout. Well, this was kind of the year for Fallout. No game, but we did get a fairly decent TV show, which helped inspire me to actually buy the Commander decks and pouring over the cards themselves and sleeving up the decks because I have a battle box of those decks, same as I have a battle box of the Warhammer decks. The setting for Fallout and the grimness to it felt like the most Magic, at least compared to something like Assassin's Creed, where it felt like, well, at least the world of Fallout feels very lived in, and there's a rich history with a lot of games and a lot of lore baked into that, and that it also has that unified post-apocalyptic desertification, just very samey kind of aesthetic design, which I think lends really well. The same with Warhammer, where Warhammer had a unified vision from top to bottom, so it just felt like it came out really well in the cards, and I felt like it did that with Universes Beyond as well. And also the precons, I've played with the Mutant Menace precon, and I've played against the Mutant Menace precon. I think it's probably the best one that they've ever made, besides the Necron.
The Mothman one?
Yeah, it's the Mothman one.
Yeah, because I guess that's one of my only experiences with Commander this year is because if everyone knows me, I did test Commander, and it's just the power group of Commander's just been
insane.
It's awful. Yeah, it's so if you ever go play any pickup Commander, it's just. But precons are actually, I think that one was pretty fun actually. Just playing that, we played just the 4 precons so against each other. And I remember, I think I had Mothman. Is that what I had? Yeah. That's actually, like, this is actually kind of fun.
I think the radiation counters themselves from that set, if I had gun to my head favorite mechanic that they've made recently, like in the past couple of years, I think the radiation counters or the rad counters are probably my favorite, just in terms of like creativity and implementation. Yeah. Like it's an actually fun mechanic.
It's a good argument for Universes Beyond. Like, I'm changing my tone with Universes Beyond because I'm really just starting to embrace how good the mechanic, just the game of Magic is. That it's really cool to implement it into other IPs, and that not just that, because it can come with a lot of creativity with it, like you said, with this radiation stuff. Because now they're like, oh, okay, so we're in this whole different world that has this different, like, this is some of the gameplay that works in these games. How can we make that work with the Magic mechanics? And I think that ends up being, because that's the problem with Magic is having now, is they keep like have you ever seen the meme of kicker? Like, everything's just kicker.
Yeah, everything's just either flying or kicker.
Yeah. So basically, like, when you branch out into these other IPs and they already have their kind of mechanic stuff, and you have to like try to make it work, it actually opens up design space, in my opinion. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the Fallout will probably be one of my, like, at least one of my best experiences with a supplemental product. Yeah, I think you picked the right one.
I think if I were to have any like big criticism of the Fallout decks, and I don't think it's the fault of Wizards, I guess it could be, but I think they should have integrated more marketing with the TV show and included characters from the TV show as cards, either through the Commander decks or through a secret lair drop. But I don't think they were expecting the Fallout TV show to be as culturally significant as it was this year, because it seems that at least it was the TV show of the year that managed to get everyone's attention, and everyone fell in love with, in particular, the Ghoul character. But who knows? They'll probably do a secret lair drop of it next year or something like that.
When it's not relevant anymore.
Yeah, exactly. When everyone's like, Walton
Goggins, who? Walking Dead?
Is that? Walking Dead? What the hell? All right. Yeah. So, worst expansion sets. So tell me, out of all of them, even though you're not a fan of any of them, which is the one that you would throw in the trash?
So I'm going to specifically get really specific here. Modern Horizons 3 Commander decks. But it's just that, again, Assassin's Creed probably wanted them. What? The Commanderification, that's when it's hit its peak.
Yeah.
Modern Horizons, it didn't need... I think this Modern's an insanely competitive format. You have to be. You have to be to play Modern. You have to know the ins and outs of these interactions in Magic that... you can't be a new player. You have to, you have to be in a while to understand these things, the timings and stuff. And then, so they go and they made the entire focus of that set release being these stupid Commander decks, and then a lot of them were like a lot of overlap with things that were recently printed. Like you had Eldrazi from Commander Masters, and they have an Eldrazi deck right in Modern Horizons. Like, like it's just too much. Like, we need a breather from Commander products, and it was just too much with that. And then what also grinds my gears, and I actually wish they would change this. This is what Pokemon actually does, and I wish they would do this with Magic. Is if they're going to release a Commander deck, there should be, the vast majority of them should be legal in the format that they're releasing them in. So I'd like to see in the future, and that what's worse about like now we have with Modern is like Modern's an old format at this point. So it's not hard to actually make cards that can be legal for that format. Yet there were so many that are not even legal out of the box for a modern format. You can't play your Modern Horizons cards in the modern format.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. In the future, that's what I wish they would do. I was looking at a card. I think it was from either Bloomborough or maybe it's even back from like Lost Cards of Ixalan. That made me so mad because it was a card I think would be so safe in Standard, and as one of the mechanics, it was like very, very flavorful mechanic that I enjoyed from that. That they must not have had enough space for it, and they'd like, okay, we'll slap it in a commander. And it just made me so salty because like I can't even brew with this in Standard because it's not legal because it's got that stupid commander symbol. So I wish that they would have some way to, of course, Sol Ring doesn't want to ever be in Standard, or maybe they want to, have your Konoma's Reaches in the commander deck, but they should just have different icons for both of them, and then people will be like, okay, these ones, all these new cards that we're printing in these commander sets are going to be legal in the Standard format. And now with like Foundations and having incredibly good removal and incredibly good burn packages now, a lot of cheese cards that might not have been safe in the past for Standard are completely safe now, because that's one of the issues with like people like, oh, these commander cards they print will ruin Standard. I don't think they can now at this point. So might as well just make them legal and make people find some cool synergies. And I really think it was something like Bloomborough's like, is it raccoons that are just barely missing that oomph to be a possibility, and there was like some sort of raccoons, or I can't remember what it was in one of the sets. I'm like, this is ridiculous that this isn't a Standard legal card. But anyway, yeah, it just kind of grinds my gears with like as a store owner too, when people buy products and they think they actually can be used for a particular, like, nope, sorry, you can't play that. I know you bought a product called Modern Horizons, you can't play it in Modern.
Sorry, so, your face commander is not Modern legal. Sorry, and
again, I just think this is a big slap in the face to like Modern players, and because there is not as much overlap as people think with. I would actually say that there's more overlap with my Commander players with playing board games than there is with my 1v1 players playing Commander. They seem like two distinct groups now. I mean, yes, there is a third group that does play both, but you do have your cores in both of them that do not overlap. The people that just play Commander and casual, and the people that just play the 1v1 kind of the arena and Magic Online type people that just play that. And it's like, I've always noticed there's more of like a connection between people that played like MOBAs, like League of Legends or StarCraft, or those with people that played 1v1 Magic, and people that played Commander more play like RPGs and D&D and board games, and it's kind of funny that I've noticed that with them, and they don't mingle and don't mix. So the Modern product was just weird because who is this for?
One of my favorite arguments that I like to make is that Commander is the format for people that want to socialize and play board games. Like, Commander is not the format for competitive-minded players at all, and and maybe it was about a decade ago, when Commander wasn't, as integral to Magic's brand as it is now. But, nowadays, at least with the sensitivity of the modern Magic Commander player, the Commander experience is almost night and day. And to go along with what you were saying with the Modern Horizons 3 Commander decks, it feels very much so that the actual set, Modern Horizons 3, is an expansion to the Commander decks rather than it is an expansion for the Modern format itself, because all the cards that are in Modern Horizons 3 just seem supplemental to those Commander decks. Like, from a business strategy standpoint, it seems like that they wanted to sell the Commander decks up front, get people interested and be like, hey, I like those Eldrazi, or hey, I like this Tarmogoyf deck, and then, oh, look at the actual set, there's the 1-drop Tarmogoyf that's actually, halfway decent. Oh, that'll be perfect for the commander deck. Or look at the 3000 Eldrazi that's in Modern Horizons 3. That you could put those in your Ulalic Fused Atrocity deck or whatever. Just it feels like the set Modern Horizons 3 was sacrificed for the commander decks, but also I'm very negative towards the Modern Horizons sets in general, so that may just be my own personal bias put towards it. But when it comes to the worst expansion of the year, if it wasn't going to be Modern Horizons 3 for me, it absolutely is Assassin's Creed, because I bought 2 boxes of that a few months back, and this was maybe a month and a half after release, and I was able to get them like at $80 a pop. I was like, okay, cool. And I opened them, and I was a bit disappointed. They're $5 or they're 5 cards per pack, so it's already anemic as is. And then when I was sorting through the collection of all the stuff that I owned, I was already kind of jazzed at the fact that I owned 3 Sword of Feast and Famine from the boxes, but there's like no green cards. There's multicolored green cards, but there's like no actual green cards. There's like 2 or 3 maybe at the most. And I maybe stop and think to myself, I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing here? What's the direction of the set? Did we even really need this in the first place? Like, it just very much felt like a push to production. Don't cross the T's, don't dot the I's, just fucking get it out there. That's what that set just feels like. It's almost like Magic's diarrhea of a Universes Beyond.
Yeah, there should be a rule. There should be a rule in every product that they make that has booster packs that it should be draftable or somehow draftable. That you could but if it doesn't have any green cards, or like the problem with Aftermath is the glut of uncommons that they end up being super commons.
Yeah.
That they're way more common than a common. So
yeah.
And it's it's their Aftermath would have been a pretty cool thing if they like, okay, they could have made it draftable and been like, okay, here we're gonna do March of Machines, and 1 Aftermath pack, and had a whole draft experience. I mean, that's kind of been my problem with Wizards for now years, is they lost the magic of Magic as far as like creating cool ways to play Magic that end up being just this way to milk and squeeze. And as you said, just like, well, let's just hurry and get this product out before really testing it, because we got to get on to this next thing to milk people with. So, yeah, how fun would it have been to draft Assassin's Creed?
Right.
Now people have to make like a cube somehow to do it.
Exactly. Like, imagine having the ability to draft an Assassin's deck and being able to draft a Templar deck and being able to draft, like, I haven't really played Assassin's Creed games, so I'm not too keen on the lore, but I do know that there's like the mix between the modern and the past, and it feels like they could have used that or utilized it for, something like draft, and I don't know, maybe give at least 5 to 10 more green cards, please, at the very least.
Yeah, it definitely it's called a booster pack. They're supposed to be able to everyone should be able to get something for their decks with a Yeah, I didn't even notice that because, again, Assassin's Creed was just released at a time where I was so overwhelmed with products too that I completely personally skipped it. Like, we sold a lot here because it's the one thing that all the naysayers with this with Universes Beyond, it does get a lot of, when people are specific fans of that product, they buy a lot of it. So
yeah. Pointless is the word that I would use for the set. Even though I had fun opening the packs and I did enjoy getting what I got, it feels very pointless. And when I was moving to my new apartment and I came across the cards that I had bought and I had set aside some stuff, I had remembered that I had built a quote-unquote commander deck, and it was essentially, I pulled the Ezio Auditore, which is the 5-color assassin legend, and I just pushed in almost every somewhat playable card from those booster boxes into the set. And like what you were saying earlier, I opened pretty much the entire set, so the excitement of chasing something that didn't come from a collector booster wasn't there. And also, another problem that I know you have had is that a lot of modern deck building these days is color by numbers deck building, and that's what that kind of felt like. And I was looking at all the assassins and all the free running mechanics and everything, and I was like, this all kind of synergizes really well together. this only requires like maybe a dozen or so cards from my personal collection to like turn this into a somewhat competent commander deck. And it's just like, where's the excitement, man?
That's my problem too. Going back to Modern Horizons with energy specifically, which is still a tier deck, because they were like trying to like, oh, how can we push energy into this format? Because we think it's kind of a fun little. And so what does it do? It's just the only cards that are really seeing play are the cards from Modern Horizons. So it's not like they brought in energy from the Kaladesh era. It's nope. They ramped it up and made it even.
I remember some people thought they were being clever and they were trying to buy out the 1-mana 3/4 from Kaladesh, that elephant that deals with energy. But it actually turns out that all the energy in Modern Horizons 3 was just way better than anything that was in Kaladesh.
There's a lot of them that were like that. Like, okay, we'll grab this. We'll grab that. Nope. There were a few of them that did see play. I think there is like one or two staples. I mean, I'm so out of it with the modern meta. I glimpse at it here now and again, I
try really hard to be involved with modern, but this year in particular feels like they were trying to kill it. If not, like they did end up actually killing it. But I want to talk about that later when we're talking about our favorite and least favorite cards for the year. Which brings me to a good segue. So Kevin, tell me, what's your card of the year?
My favorite card of the year is Nashi Search in the Dark. I just love this card. It gives that tension that I love in tempo magic, because if it feels like, 2-drops, like, unfortunately in Standard right now, there's so many busted 2-drops that a lot of decks are very well prepared for something like Nashi, because you have to kill the Monastery Swift Spears and the nonsense that Prowess has to throw at you. And so it does just end up being a removal target. But this card, that the tension of like, should I kill it or not kill it, is like perfect, because they don't know what the potential payoff for Nashi is. And I just think it's a well-designed card with being able to like this. I think there's a kind of phenomenon, I guess not really a kind of psychological thing with people, where an added benefit that isn't good ends up detracting from the card. And then I like to tell people when they're analyzing a card, if you just were to take out this wording, would you evaluate it differently? So I think that people don't use Nashi in a lot of decks because of the word enchantments. And like, oh, well, I'm not using enchantments. Yeah. And it works off legendaries, which there are so many legendaries. Like the legendary...
Isn't the Kaido Planeswalker like an all-star? And that's
you can hit it. You can hit Liliana's too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which curse perfectly. So and it's just it's a fun card, and it gives this like nice little back and forth tempo. I've been able to create some really cool decks with this being the center point of the card. Like again, I keep saying to bring back Rogue Deck Builder, and I'll actually like build the decks and start to record the videos, and then I'll get sidetracked and never finish it, and then it's like, this is old now. But I had a lot of fun playing a Nashi deck. It's one of the most fun cards I've had in a long time. With not only like, and I feel like it like, I'm not sure how it fits in the meta now, but when I was playing it, the Dimir Demons deck was everywhere, and it was a very good matchup just for the fact that a lot of my low to the ground stuff like Nashi could just get out of hand, so we could go tit for tat, and then it'd come down to like, okay, they're starting to slam higher curve stuff, but then my lower curve stuff is actually generating a lot of resources. So it was an interesting card with again, just the board states that it would create, the tension it would create. So
I'm a really big fan of how proactive it is of an effect where it requires you to attack, and not only attack but deal combat damage. So it's not one of those you slap it down and the card plays itself type of designs. Like, this is an actual build around me type card that doesn't necessarily require 100% commitment of building around Nashi. It's just a really solid Dimir bear.
Yeah, it's actually not even in a deck that the what do we call them, the sliths? Was that what the slith fire? It's a slith if it's nothing else, because it's getting a +1 counter even if you don't hit.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a really well designed card, because it feels good if you don't hit, feels good if you do hit. It mills. It's like, yeah, it finds its own copies. That's what I like too. So a lot of times you'll hit and you'll find another copy. Like, yeah, remove it now. Remove it. Come on. Because you can just slap down another one.
Oh yeah,
So
and you can find other copies with and everything. Yeah,
yeah,
super good.
It's just I like that's been my favorite card so far in a while.
I really like it. And also, I was just now looking at the art for the first time, and I'm a big fan of that art. Like, for me, I'm a big sucker when it comes to colors, and having just a very purple art with that green in the center. I'm sure in real life, that card probably pops more, especially if it was foil, but that art is sick for that Nashi. And also, I do kind of like the modern aesthetic of the Nashi. Kind of looks like what's that guy's name? Krim from MTG Goldfish. I'm reminded of him. That's so big fan.
Yeah.
So my favorite card of the year from the same set, which is funny because neither of us picked Duskmourn as our set of the year, but my favorite card of the year is Valgavoth Terror Eater. Not because I've had any luck playing with it, but because, like I've said before, I'm a big old Timmy. I love my Timmy cards. Valgavoth is the closest that I think I will ever get to be able to play Grizzlebrand style type of card in Commander. And I'm very lucky that I opened it in the small amount of Duskmourn packs that I did buy. And so Valgavoth, for those of you who don't know, 9 mana, 9/9 flying lifelink ward, doesn't really matter because no one's going to fucking target it anyways. But just the fact that it gets to play around with the exile zone, I love being able to play around with the exile zone because there are some people that are in the camp where exile is the area of Magic that you're not supposed to mess around with. But I am a big fan and a big proponent of using the exile as a secondary graveyard, and particular where it's like temporary type of graveyard, and Valgavoth just kind of hits all the right notes for me. And also aesthetically, I love the idea of having this big baddie that's like locked into the house, and then the art actually showcases that, and like his wings turn into the staircases that go into his body. I love Valgavoth so much.
I've seen it played in Standard quite a bit. Are they still playing it? Is it still the most expensive card? No, not anymore, is it?
Maybe. It was $20 when I opened it, but okay, it's $15 now.
It sees playing Pioneer and there's even a Legacy deck that it sees play in.
Really? Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but
hold on. I thought the Reanimator choice was Atraxa.
It is. It can be. Archon of Cruelty, Atraxa. I'm looking at this deck list, and people have messed around with Valgaloth. Yep, a Reanimate deck.
Interesting. Okay, so I guess my Timmy choice is justified a little bit.
And it does seem it does seem it's in Jund Creativity and Pioneer. People started playing.
Oh, okay.
Quite a bit.
All right. Well, that's a
it's like it's a three-way split between Atraxa, Titan of Industry, and Valgavoth. I guess they don't care which one they hit, huh?
It's all gravy. Doesn't matter what you hit.
Yeah,
it's gonna get you there. All right. So for our,
I guess you hit them all. That's why, right? Because in Domino Creativity, if you have more than one, destroy X target artifacts. Yeah, destroyed. Yeah, so you can name it for 3, and then you can get all 3. Okay, I get it.
So tell me. We already talked about it in previous episodes of the podcast, but I'm always willing to talk about this card over and over again. Your least favorite card of the year is one of my most favorite cards in the Foundation set in general. So talk to me about Bolt Wave. Why do you dislike it so much?
Well, it has to be the combination with Boros Charm and Bolt Weave, because now you've guaranteed Boros Burn is around for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I mean that's 8 cards in a deck. That's 12 and 16 damage that you're allowed. And Lightning Strike isn't Shock in Foundations too? So is Burst Lightning?
Yeah, Burst Lightning.
So you've basically guaranteed this shell of Boros Burn always being viable now, which I think that format. So what made standard kind of nice is we'd get these reprieves, we'd get these breathers from certain archetypes
Right.
of always being in the format, and that allows for other things to exist, because burn is always going to weed out, and some people say like it's a necessary policing factor to the game. It keeps cheese in check. But when it's this strong with like Boleaf is powerful. In my opinion, it's too powerful for standard. That's why, they haven't reprinted Lava Spike. So if they haven't reprinted Lava Spike for years and years and years, there's a reason. It was too powerful for standard. Same thing with Boros Charm. It hasn't been reprinted since it missed being reprinted when the War of the Spark storyline, going back to Ravnica again, because it's too powerful. This is why they created Pioneer and Modern. Is now it's like, okay, these cards they were once upon a time in standard. We don't want to revisit them. They're gonna, like, in my opinion, that it's almost a good kind of baseline for a card power level in standards, like, or a reprint at least, is does it currently still see play in Pioneer Modern? Okay, if it does, we probably shouldn't reprint it into standard. I don't know. Maybe I just have a different design philosophy or play philosophy than most people, and obviously people are enjoying the higher power level of but to me it still seems very intimidating for new players, like when a game doesn't last more than 3 or 4 turns. And the problem of having a standard 2 is maybe some of these games do last longer, but the writing's on the wall quickly of who's going to win the game with lots of these matchups with these cards that exist.
Well, I mean, games were already ending quickly anyways with like the Hearthfire Hero Monstrous Rage.
Yeah, well, yes. But I mean, it adds another... Now you have to worry about burn,
right,
too. And they both attack at very different angles here, so it's hard to beat them both. And I mean, you can make the argument that when we're during the Ikoria era with Wilderness Reclamation, and those games maybe weren't ending on turn 3 or 4, but they were ending on turn 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You knew that it was over. Like, it's okay, I didn't stop them. It's going to be over in a few turns, because the value would just get, Wilderness Reclamation was just going to grind you out no matter what. It's been established, and so I don't know. So those 2 particular cards, I just felt were like too strong, too like paint by colors, like or paint by numbers. You've made a deck now that's going to be around, and in my opinion, one of the more boring ways to play Magic. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Bolt I would have...
Actually, burn is one of the most skill-intensive decks ever.
I think that Bolt would have been better placed in Modern Horizons. Like, that should have been the home. Yeah. And then the dumb commander players could get their 3 damage to every player type effect. That
I agree with you on that. I think it should have been in Modern Horizons 3. That would have actually been more appropriate for that. I will agree to a certain extent that the paint by numbers of archetypes like Burn is simply... It's too simple. We're an Eidolon of the Great Revel or a Goblin Guide away from just having a 1-to-1 of that deck effectively.
Well,
without
Goblin Guide's 2 weeks, so
yeah,
it's been replaced in most. Does it even see play in Modern now?
I try not to play it in Modern because I have Boros Burn in Modern, and one of the reasons why I don't like playing it is because of Goblin Guide, but it's really hard trying to justify playing anything else other than Goblin Guide, at this point.
I've not even seen a Burn deck show up in a Modern list right now. It's not even viable.
It's not. Well, at least when I played a couple months ago, it was a joke.
It's just too slow. Yeah, because it's a turn 4 now.
Yeah, and I mean, what good is Boros Burn when you're staring down an Ocelot Pride, a Guide of Souls? You're gonna get fucking stomped.
Yeah. Yep.
So, my least favorite card of the year has to be Nadu Winged Wisdom. Not because of the same overrated reasons that everyone hates it, but because, for me, Nadu feels like it was the final flagpole in killing the Modern format, because the whole joke of the Modern Horizons sets being that whenever it releases, you get the 1 to 2 cards that completely overshadows the format for the entire summer season, right? With Modern Horizons 1, you had Hogak. With Modern Horizons 2, you had Fury, and you had Murktide Regent. Is that what that was, or was that the first Modern Horizons? I can't remember.
No, that was the second one.
That was the second one. It was just very format warping. But with Nadu in particular, what it did to the modern format and also the Commander format, it was so bad for the Commander format that it kind of already got gentleman's agreement banned. Like, you just didn't play it in Commander in general because everyone immediately knew what was up. But Nadu, apart from being just the most, egregious design mistake that Wizards has made probably in the last decade or so, it is for me, it's indicative of the design decisions that Wizards has made for all of their Eternal formats in general. Like this, if you want to know exactly what Wizards feels about Modern, feels about Legacy, feels about Pioneer, or anything like that, just look at a card like Nadu, and that'll give you an idea. Because yes, it's an exceptionally powerful card, and it is just 1 or 2 words away from actually balancing it. But at the end of the day, and Wizards of the Coast, they can have all the excuses that they want where they say, oh, it was a last minute change. But the previous version that they had before then was so utterly broken that I refuse to believe that they didn't observe the fact that it was already absurdly broken in the original version before they quote unquote fixed it. And so for me, it just feels like culturally, Nadu just feels like a middle finger to just everyone in general.
Yeah, it was a terribly designed card. I can't believe it ever got past the fact that, spell or ability. Yeah.
I almost picked Nadu as my card of the year for the same reasons as not like in a positive light, but because of like, if you wanted to define mid 2020s Magic, Nadu is the card that defines it. But that's enough about me bitching about that card. So tell me, Kevin, out of the entire year, what's the one moment or event that stands out to you the most in terms of what you enjoy about the game?
Well, the moment probably was Duskmourn Worlds, just because it seemed to revive the atmosphere of, and to be completely honest, I think me personally, I've moved on, so I wouldn't be engaged in this sort of thing like I used to be to begin with.
Right.
So what I'm talking about is it kind of revived the whole, like, people caring about watching Worlds, the energy of watching competitive play. It just felt like we were back to the good old 2015 era where that was the highlight.
Like 2015 Magic,
where everyone tuned in. Like that's what made Magic so Magic before this whole milking and I don't even think the Commanders were the problem. It was Wizards of the Coast was the problem. They changed their focus on turning everyone into cows rather than. I like to make this analogy. I don't have the off the top of my head. It'd be like sports, like the NFL, not giving a crap about the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
like that's what Magic did. Like everything the NFL does leads up to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Everything, all the games, everything. That's the highlight of the year. And Magic in 2015, that's what it was. Is these Pro Tours and Worlds. They were the highlight, and everything else, all the suspense was building up to this. And then when someone is crowned a champion, the whole thing was, and there was massive like card price spikes after a Pro Tour or Worlds, and everyone was on their computers waiting and watching and being the first to post, and which had a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And then it just became so like we were going over post our last podcast, which we actually probably should dive deeper into, and we were going down the nostalgia train of like a lot of these YouTube channels that no longer exist, or from Wizards when they used to do Walking the Plains, and what was the other one that we came across?
So there was Walking the Plains, which was Nathan Holt, and then
but he also did another. And then who was the other one that did I can't think of his name too. He does coverage still. Oh man, I gotta pull it up here. But anyway, those were the, like, when Magic had this focus on it actually being, they wanted to be an esport back then, which was, it was fun. Like we wanted Magic to have this notoriety. Like, this is the back when League of Legends was breaking, not just like esport events, events.
Yeah.
The largest gathering of, if you want to call it a sport, but people going for some sort of competitive event, was a League of Legends tournament. It outsold any sport, soccer even. And it was like, it was fun to be a part of that energy that Magic was starting to build up. Like, we still remember household names from that time period, and I couldn't tell you who won what in the last 5 years
No.
from then, because the coverage has been so dismal. The interaction from Wizards, and again, the buck stops at Wizards, and so it's good to see a return to the kind of the coverage. They did a good job, I think, showcasing Worlds, and there's still a lot they could do, but it was nice to see, like, them at least.
It felt like an oasis in the middle of a desert.
Yeah. Yep.
It really did. I was a big fan of it, and it was the first Magic event in years that I had actually followed because of the same reasons. And also, it's, you have certain, like, I would say star-making moments, but this event in particular was more of a swan song type moment for, like Kai Buddha, who, for those of you who are watching and don't know, Kai Buddha is arguably the greatest Magic player of all time, and this is effectively going to be his last opportunity to play in an event like this. And I was emotionally invested in not just the event, but also the player as well. And like you said, this is something that we haven't had in the better part of a decade, is the ability to actually engage not just with the game, but the actual people that play the game, because these types of events actually showcase that, and they showcase the community, or the gathering, as it would.
Yeah, I think Wizards just wanted to change that they wanted the community to be these more board game, tabletop Commander. Like, at the same time period too, what was like Critical Role was taking off. I'm trying to think of what was the girl that played on the Netflix series Daredevils. She started doing a D&D. What was that? Was that Critical Role? So I don't even know. But I think Wizards really started, and we started seeing Command Zone and the all these Commander,
the fucking game nightification of Magic.
Yes, and it's like that's great. That can still happen. Like that it doesn't have to be either or, but it's almost like Wizards was embarrassed, and competition started at the same time period to become almost a dirty word, where it started becoming toxic. These toxic cultures in Magic. I mean, this is the same time with like Owen Turtenwald, and that when those guys, it was funny because when nerds started getting some sort of notoriety or fame, and then there's all the accusations that start coming with it, which just the every sport's gone through this, and it's like, I think that's when Wizards like, yeah, we're done with this pro scene. Let's just go over to this.
There just happened to be, like, the timing was really bad with certain people, like like you had Owen, which, from what I recall, it doesn't matter whether or not it was proven. The fact of the matter is that he pieced out of Magic after the fact. And then you also have oh god, what's that guy's name? Connolly, I think. But like, that was an actual legit, like, we need to get you out of here because you done shit bad enough that it gets you sent to prison, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it was just very, like, the timing of it all was just very, very convenient for Magic and them trying to build their brand, and at the cost of sacrificing the competitive scene. I mean, like, they have been trying to revive it in the last year or so, and it seems that they actually want to try and rebuild Standard to be a respectable format to actually get players into the game. Because I'm sure Wizards of the Coast they see the numbers, we don't, but if I had to take a guess, you net in a whole bunch of Commander players. The issue with Commander players is once they get comfortable enough, they're not going to buy any more cards. They're just going to maybe buy a couple singles that they want, but they have all the precons that they need. What you need to do is you need to get them in standard so that actually they have a reason to get engaged with the local game store and to buy booster packs and to be, invested in the market a little bit. And events like this Worlds coverage helps that, because it puts the eyes on this, and it, you have 5 years worth of new players who didn't even think that there would be something as prestigious as like this Worlds type of event, with the stakes that it has, with the rewards that you can get out of it, like being able to get your face on a card, and this is the way to do it by winning this event. Like, that adds a lot. It really does.
And I mean, I still miss the days when you had these little local rivalries and you had your one guy at the store that everyone was afraid of, or the little ringer at the store.
You had the spike of the area.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad that whole, like, a lot of people hated that part of Magic. But I mean, why can't you have it both ways? Why can't we have a robust commander? Like, you can still milk the casual, you can still create products for them. But I mean, there was no reason that Wizards should have given up. And this is the cultural swings. We see this all the time. We're seeing a resurgence, even things like, I've noticed like StarCraft getting a resurgence, like the RTSs, and they were gone for a while. Like, we went through kind of a clickbaity era of like Among Us and these super low engagement games that were just fast and easy.
Yeah, but there are some more skill intensive games starting to come back.
Yeah, I mean, Magic is one of the better ones. I mean, everyone used to compare it with when chess meets poker. Well, Commander's definitely not that. So
no, Commander. I love how Post Malone. Commander is when Twister meets Scrabble. That's what it feels like.
Well, Post Malone was trying to convince Joe Rogan to play Commander. I remember watching that Joe Rogan podcast with him and stuff, and we're like, Post, is cool you play Magic, but you don't really play Magic. and there's some truth to, like, I don't want to be one of these people that, like, one's superior than the other, because these people are starting to drive me nuts. Because when I say Commander, they think I'm like this ally to this sort of mentality of that one's the right way to play. But there is this adage that a lot of people that played Commander were those that couldn't play 1v1 that got stomped so bad, and then they decided they're just going to take over the game with and that's how it is kind of here at our store too. Like, it's like all of our really competitive players, they're either all grown up, and there just hasn't been a good conversion rate of like getting younger people into wanting to play 1v1. And it's still, but the Commander players have still stuck with it. It's like, but it's all the people that could never really, so people that go 0-5 in the
it's funny because the younger people are the more competitively inclined ones. Like, I think I talked about in the last episode, but I've been getting into the Pokemon trading card game, and because you play the Pokemon trading card game, you get exposed more to younger players, and it is very apparent that they love competitive gaming in general. Like, that is what they do. Like, young people, they want that. They want the ability to actually compete with other people and have this claim to fame, as it were. And so, who knows, maybe Wizards will wake up and see the reception of this event, and maybe we'll have the old school Pro Tour layout that we used to have. That's a bit of a pipe dream.
Just do it both. Do both. Why not? And this is a good segue into like the Universes Beyond can do that. You can bring people that would like to play like those, like StarCraft. That'd be a great Universes Beyond, and really hit on like a competitive aspect to it, rather than try to focus more on the Commander portion of it. I don't know. It's just like that's the beauty of Magic, is they've just got this amazing product that they could do so much with, and that's why I've been so sad. Like, again, I beat this over the head about my Pro Tour experience being it was awesome, but at the same time it was just so sad.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Like the organization was it's like, okay, here's your schedule for playing some matches, but that's really all that's going on, and here's a t-shirt.
This is what we play for, with a question mark at the end.
And
this is what we play for, with an exclamation mark.
They were like trying to push people out of the event, like when the
Heaven forbid you actually
finals was happening. When the final was happening, it was like a ghost town. I'm like, why weren't people like I was disappointed in the community too, because like I was disappointed in the pros. I'm like, wouldn't they want to wait around and see who won? And nope, they're more interested in catching their flight, or there was no after event or after party or after something like that. Like it was just so sad that this was a $1 billion company again. They couldn't.
Could you imagine, like, if you want to compare, like, apples to oranges, but if you want to compare, like, giving competitive players an actual, like, high pressure competitive scene where you have the finals and you have an actual crowd of people watching and actively cheering, and it's loud, and so not only do you need to play at your best, but you also have to deal with the cacophony around you and everything, like how pro gamers deal with. I mean, like, obviously I think they have like special headsets that prevent them from getting too overstimulated, but it just feels like we have this opportunity to really, like, almost not necessarily remix, but innovate on this competitive aspect and actually sell the idea of being a top competitive player and redefining what that means. I hope Wizards takes advantage of it, because if they had situations where the top of the level players get to play in front of a crowd and it's an actual, like, dynamic environment, I feel like that would be a huge boon to the
If they
game.
can do it without giving away information. I mean, that's the problem with Dota, is they put them on with headsets and in soundproof rooms and stuff like that. And that's what they should. Again, that has to be. There can't be given information away. But the same point, like again, make the comparisons with a League of Legends tournament and a Dota tournament with the fireworks and the after celebration. Like, I know with Dota, that, like, then they have the All-Star game afterwards. So everything is this of course big lead up, but there also isn't just this, okay, it's over now, let's clean up and go home. Like, it was just sad. It was sad that that was what was offered to the players, to the should have been a whole week-long thing of, I mean, there should have been a lot of post-analysis. There should have been a lot of, that's what happens in sports. So Wizards just needs to get serious. And unfortunately, that's my biggest problem with Wizards of the Coast. For as long as I've been doing this, I've been shouting and shouting and shouting about, like I said, they've had the greatest game to do this with, and they've just missed the mark on, like, again, their focus is too much on milking the cow.
Who knows? With Riot making their own TCG and their marketing, or they're testing it in the Chinese markets, maybe that's what they're going to try and do, is integrate this whole culture aspect of their properties into a card game and actually turn a card game into an esport type phenomenon. One can hope, because Wizards ain't going to do it. That surely is the case. I mean, they had the opportunity, and they kind of did back in, like, the early 2000s when, like, they had, like, partnerships with ESPN, but those days are long gone.
Yeah, and I guess the gaffe too is when they tried to turn it over to Magic Arena to be in the competitive. I mean, and that was just such a shit show.
Yeah, they really dropped the ball hard on Arena. One, they should have let it cook for a couple more years, but also, Wizards of the Coast is known for paying their devs dog shit anyways, and they should have just put their money where their mouth is and made Arena a gangbusters type product from the beginning. But
yeah, I mean, Arena is just such a sad product. There still isn't a way to like MTGO has a way to goldfish. Like, you can just play against nothing. Before you enter. You can do a lot of different customizations as far as how, like, when you're deck building, to how the layout looks and sort by stuff. And Arena's still a mess. You still, like, there are so many things that games from the 90s were able to, like, implement and solve when people wanted it. Arena's like, nope, you just click a button and play, and that's it. Here's your home page, click your format, click play. It's like, okay.
That, and the fucking app is designed for phones, so it's already
I know.
difficult to navigate anyways. Ugh, it's such a pile.
Which now you have to play against people on phones. Now that makes the time of people clicking things, and I guess my problem too. Arena still doesn't have a goddamn report button.
Nope. You just have to deal with ropers and emote spammers.
Exactly, and it doesn't have to be. These don't have to be human. How it works on Dota and other games I played is just you start to learn like AI or not even AI, just algorithms can start to learn who the problematic players are of doing stuff, because it will start to generate kind of reports of player behavior. And then you can have tiers. So all the garbage ragers can play against, like, that's what's so great about, I keep talking about Dota, is Dota doesn't like, okay, if you're a toxic player, you get to play with all these other toxic people. Have fun down in the toxic bracket. And you just sit there with toxic
purgatory
people.
Almost.
Yeah, you can all rope each other all day long, and I've never. I mean, it's been a problem even with MTGO or even in Paper Magic, where people get mad at their opponents for their bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
When it has nothing to do, like, I didn't draw your damn cards for you. I didn't shuffle your deck. I didn't do, like, why are you mad at me to do it? And it's like Arena is just like, every time I load up Arena and I get all excited to do stuff, it's just been. They don't have a replay function. Like, as far as a content creator, I can't even go back to a game. Yeah, it made it so much better with MTGO, where I could go back, or like if the video crashes or whatnot, and still don't have a layout that looks nice for streamers. They could make there's websites that do it better. I mean, come on, Wizards. Yeah. Anyway, now I guess we've
gotten way off.
Big time.
We've gotten way off topic, but that's okay. I enjoy rambling with you. I think we were on our favorite moments of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you were talking about coverage. All right, so my top moment of the year, maybe a bit contrarian, but that's because I love the controversy. My favorite moment of the year is the announcement that Dockside Extortionist, Jewel Lotus, and Mana Vault are fucking gone out of Commander. I completely agree with the bannings. 2, I love seeing the people's reactions to it. And I say that because on my TikTok page, like a month or two beforehand, I made a post saying, fuck Fast Man, I'm done with it. Like, get it out of the format. Like, are we competitive or not? If we're being casual, then we need to stop with my deck is a power level 7 and then you drop a Dockside Extortionist and then blink it and then win the game 2 turns later. Like, no, let's fucking cut it out. And then they did. They cut it out. Everyone lost their shit for 2 weeks. And then what happened? Everyone moved on. Nobody cares anymore. Now, it is funny on Reddit, seeing some people, like on r/magic card polls, seeing people open the special Jeweled Lotus from Commander Masters. And albeit it looks really cool, but I don't know. I loved seeing the reaction out of it. I'm so glad that it's gone from the format. I wish we could get bannings like this 2 to 3 times a year and just make people shit their pants. Because to me, that's the type of stuff that I think the game needs more. And one thing that modern Magic players, like from the past 5 years, haven't had a taste of is their investments and their decks getting completely flipped on their head overnight. Immediately, because that was the thing. Nobody expected it to happen, and then everyone wakes up on Monday, 8 a.m. Sorry, your most expensive cards are gone. Too bad.
Yeah, I'm pro banning for sure. Like, I've never understood the raging. I mean, that's the kind of problem I'm having too with like the 3-year standard. Is all these people like, I want my cards to last longer. Man, I don't. I think things get stale quickly and get solved, and especially with the introduction of now things like AI and other ways to make things easier. Just the way to scrape data, and it's gonna solve for us a lot quicker. So the only way to do that is through bannings. And bannings are also a necessary evil because it's the only way you can change things, because you can't retroactively go back. It's not like a video game where you can just go do a nerf somewhere. And so if you want creative design, if you want Wizards to push the envelope, if you want them to have that freedom and not have super stale, boring cards that are safe, then banning is the only alternative. And so people should just realize that their deck ends up being like a 60, 70, like Nadu. The writing was on the wall for Nadu, and then still had people crying about, why Wizards make the card in the first place? Because there's no way humanly possible that these things aren't going to slip through the cracks. So, yeah, I'm pro rotation, pro banning, pro. I unfortunately, I think I'm in the minority too of people, because I the whole point with Commander, though, I don't know, is it just needs tiers. I think just some structured tiers.
If it wasn't for the banning, it would be the dissolution of the Commander, what's it called? I almost called it the reserve list, but it's like the rules committee or whatever.
Yeah, well, that was a stupid organization to begin with.
And I mean, like, with all due respect, rest in peace, Sheldon. I think his death was arguably one of the better things for the format, because now we can actually move on from a lot of these archaic standards that have upheld the format for so long, that has helped facilitate a lot of the toxic mentalities that a lot of the uber casual players have been exhibiting for years now. And it's just only gotten stronger and stronger as ban lists don't happen, as certain things get doubled down. Like, one thing that I rolled my eyes at then, and I still roll my eyes at now, again, no disrespect to Sheldon, but him crying about Elishnorn in March of the Machine, to me was indicative of the underlying symptoms of the Commander format in general, and a lot of the problems. And it's that if you think a card like Elishnorn is such a problem that it needs to be banned or changed beforehand without actively playing against it, what kind of experience are we trying to foster here with Commander? Are we trying to just hold hands with each other, or are we trying to play a game? I want to play a game. That's the whole reason why I built a deck, and why I tried to be creative and brew something cool, is so I could actually play with it, not play Pillow Fort Simulator. And these types of bans help push it in that direction. And the tiered system helps to push it in that direction. Honestly, if we could meet in the middle and have like a competitive 1v1 Commander format that acted kind of closer to Canadian Highlander than it does like normal Commander as it is, I would be more accepting of that. But that's kind of a pipe dream. But
well, I mean, here's my last experience playing Commander that I had, because I tell people I play Commander once a month, because people always beg, Kevin, just play a game with us, type thing. So playing on, I have the Shelob deck from Lord of the Rings, which was a league deck. So what we do here at our store, when we can get players who actually want to do it, is you open up a booster box, build a Commander deck out of it, and then you start cracking packs per week, and then you can start getting other cards going in. So I mean, the power level was absolutely like ultra casual at that point. And because that's what everyone said, no, what are we playing? Okay, I'm just playing this and this. And this guy gets fast mana into a 2-card combo, and it was over in like turn 4. And I'm like, and I look down, I'm like, oh, I have three lands out, and I think I played like a I can't remember what I played, like a self-mill card or something. I can't remember. I cast one spell the entire game. And then the rest of the time, so I'm like, okay, well, and this is like, everyone's like, well, here's a rule 0 where you agree on things before. Well, now we spent the next 20 minutes arguing, like, dude, why'd you play that? It's like, well, it never works. It never happens that way. Like, you have a goddamn 2-card combo. One of them's your Commander. So the other card combos with it. And you're trying to convince us that this is a casual experience, like you're not trying to be. And then, people get all mad if you target them. Like, there was a kid notorious to build this nonsense. And so if he would come sit in these pods, I would just police it, because I'd bring in a, not quite a CEDH deck, but a pretty good deck of shutting down cheese. And so he'd sit down, then he wouldn't be able to play his dumb combo, and he'd get so sad, like why are you targeting me? I'm like, hey, because you don't target you combo off, and no one gets to play anything. So I mean, that's kind of my old experience with
the classic set up for 20 minutes and then you immediately die, and then you talk about it for 20 minutes, and then you just rinse repeat. Ugh.
Yeah. So I mean, there needs to be tier lists. There has to be, like, I don't know. I always thought that they should have some more clear
signposts. We need Wizards to be more aggressive with how to define Commander and how to play it, because we've left it in the community's hands for so long that it's become apparent that we as a community have no ownership and no responsibility over the format.
There has to be guidelines. I've been arguing with all these casuals too. It's like, we won't care anyway. We won't do what Wizards. I'm like, bullshit. They'll do exactly what Wizards says. And not just that, it gives structure. The biggest thing for me, like all the comments on some of my videos too, it gives me structure as a, how many times I have to go in and be mediator to people playing Commander, or be like, well, what's the official rules for this, or the sideboard question, what does outside the game mean with this Eldrazi? The Eldrazi goes and gets any outside the game, and it's like, Well, it's whatever you guys want it to mean. It's a casual format, but then it still comes up, and so like, okay, some guidelines would be nice from Wizards of the Coast. And the thing that also made it even worse was Wizards of the Coast tried to do all these commander conventions where they actually had paid entry for a prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, at that point, yeah, they need to put it in their own hands and give some guidelines.
If I have to sign up on my phone to play Commander, I expect there to be more like rigidity. Is that a real word? I don't think that's a word. But I expect I expect there to be a better structure than what we have now, especially if the onus is on me and the store to be organized. We gotta have the format being organized. And if that means axing Jeweled Lotus, good fucking riddance. Get it out of here. All right, so worst moments of the year for you. Tell me, what was the one that I'm looking at our list now and I'm just laughing at it preemptively. So tell me, what made you cringe the most this year?
My boy Mark Rosewater.
Uh-oh.
The gift that never quits giving.
Your best friend in the whole wide world.
The whole way he handled Universes Beyond, the whole Universe Beyond standard thing, and just the tone deafness and and then the blaming, the kind of victim blaming at that point, or the whole, like, Mark Rosewater.
It reminds me a lot of the Jace
League
and how he cried about the Jace League.
And not just that, he flip flops and acts like he didn't flip flop, and I hire a spokesman at this point, Wizards. I don't know, like and this is a lot of this. Well, that is the problem. It's unofficial, but it's official. Because sometimes he talks in capacity for Wizards of the Coast, and he tries to be the guy that puts out the fires and is pouring gasoline on them all, and then yeah.
So what was it exactly that he was saying about Universes Beyond? Because I forget. I'm having brain fog.
See, I kind of forget too now with it, but it was kind of on the lines of like, well, my daughter likes to play this, and it's a way for me to connect with my, type of thing. Like, it's people that were like worried that Magic was losing its identity,
right? And
it was like, well, too bad. It was just, again, it was just this whole thing of like, and people are like then saying, you promised us, we're pulling up your post. And
from like 5 years ago or something like that.
Not even 5 years, I don't think it was. It was just the mental gymnastics of him trying to justify and rationalizing, and then turning it back on and trying to like make these people bad or out of touch or entitled or this whole saying that, well, maybe this set's not for you, type thing. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah. So they need to, and I'm not saying the guy, I've had my fair share of
his reaction. Very much feels like he didn't expect, Spider-Man to be standard legal, and now he has to pick up the pieces and kind of defend the brand. But it felt very much like an investor or a higher up at Hasbro. It's like, you got to fucking deal with this. And he's just like, okay, I guess. And now we just have this can of worms where you have this guy who, sure, he's been doing PR for 20 years, but he's not necessarily the greatest at it. Yeah. He's too blunt, and I'm not
condescending.
Too condescending, and yeah, exactly. I was gonna say autistic, but that's not right. Condescending is the more appropriate term. But it speaks very much of someone who has been doing this for 20 years, and he's tired of hearing the same 30 to 40 complaints about the game.
Well, he should have a backbone too, because there's got to be stuff that this doesn't seem like the Mark Rosewater of old too. Mm-hmm. I don't know, he's just becoming such a yes man.
Yeah.
But there's a better way to be a yes man.
That's what it is. Maybe he's just riding it out to retirement. He's just
well, again, there's a better way to be a yes man of just being like, well, I hear your concerns. This is the direction that they've decided to go. And try to at least empathize or sympathize with the way, but man, does he start to get, double down, triple down, flip flop around those double down, triple downs, and then again.
What he needs to do is he needs to fully promote Gavin as the spokesperson. And he needs to go back to being head designer.
Honestly, I think Gavin does a better job with it. Like, sometimes Gavin can be a little bit, but he comes around usually. So I don't have a problem with Gavin.
Yeah, he's young and energetic, and that's something that you can't really say for Morrow these days. Because it's funny, like I remember watching a couple months ago, I was watching old Evan Irwin interviews with Mark, and like it's night and day.
Yeah,
like
he
the
was a
Mark,
very likable guy. Everyone loved. Like, I still give credit for Mark Rosewater really saving Magic, turning around design, because there were some things that needed updated. There needed to be Magic needed to get with the times as far as mechanics and design was concerned.
right?
And Mark played a pivotal role in facilitating that. But yeah, it's one of those classic things: either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain.
That's exactly what it feels like with him. And now he's like full villain mode, and it's not like even an interesting villain. It's just like an eye-rolling villain of the week type villain. It's just like, you again? Oh God, please leave us alone. Please shut up. So, my worst moment of the year, it's also the most recent, and we already talked about it a little bit beforehand. And I guess this is very topical, and had we had a normal episode of a podcast, this would have been the first subject, and that is the renaming of Kaladesh. Now, for me, it's not necessarily the worst moment in terms of like, oh, I am so offended, but it's the worst moment of the year because it felt so contrived and unnecessary. So for those of you that don't know, Kaladesh got renamed to Avishkar, which honestly, I like Avishkar more than Kaladesh, but the reason why they did it is because, actually, you know what? I think you know more about the reason why.
Yeah, well, because I looked into this, because I heard this through secondary sources first, and what the hearsay and just the rumor mills of like, well, the reasoning. Then I actually did read the statement by Wizard of the Coast, and the more and more I read about it, it's like, okay, this the way that they actually handled it officially was fine until all the yappity yappers that are and this is the problem. Now we're going back to like what's official and what's not official. When you have people that are acting in the official capacity for Wizard of the Coast, then adding this unnecessary like layers to it. Then it's like, okay, now this is actually cringe. If this is the real reason why, or like if this is the deal you're going to make it out to be. So. Yeah. The TLDR with it is in Hindi, Kala means black, and Desh basically means country, and Kala can be used in some form somewhere. Like, it's debated. Like, people are like now trying to use their Indian friend as a source, all this stuff. Well, my Indian friend says it's not, or someone will pipe in that's an I don't want to say American Indian because that's like but someone that's Indian that's lived in America,
right?
For a couple generations, like never once have heard this used as a racial. So you have all these people piping in, which then leads to all these other things piping in, and it just ends up this whole where it starts to get into this territory of like, okay, we're back to Wizards of the Coast, focused on being do-gooders. Patting themselves on the back of like, oh, goody, look what we've done. We're going to fight this racial injustice when no one even knew it was racist.
No.
And that's the problem I've been having.
Nobody knew anything.
There's 7,000 languages in the world. There are so many different dialects that have different words for different things that then can be combined. And at that point, everything is problematic. Everything is racist. Everything is offensive. So where does it end? And this is going back to like, people for years now have been talking about Dungeon Master, how the negative connotations surrounding Master. And Wizard of the Coast should really rethink of calling it Dungeon Master, because what's a Master? I'm like, what do you mean, what's a Master? A Master is something that is a mastery.
Time. Yeah.
And then it goes back to like it wouldn't be a deal. Like this is what I really hit telling all the people saying this is a nothing burger. You're right. But the problem, they made a big deal about Manlands. If people remember that, or all the other bullshit. If I can, I don't know if you care.
Go ahead. I don't care.
that they've done in the past is now it's like, here we go again of a nothing burger. Like Manlands, that was the most ridiculous thing ever because it wasn't a reference to a gender. No. The term man is humanoid. It's so like it's the classification of turning an inanimate thing into a humanoid like function. So Manland was perfect for describing turning the land into a creature. And then they well, it's particularly offensive and why does everything have to be male oriented? Oh my God, people, it's not. It's not. You're making it that by you putting this big spotlight and saying that this is racist, this is problematic, this is sexist, this is this. You've just created an issue where there wasn't one.
Yeah.
And again, the response wasn't too bad from Wizards of the Coast, so I've kind of retracted a little bit back from when I did my video on my channel about it with like, oh my God. And I was mainly referencing the craziness in the market of people thinking now that Kaladesh is somehow going to be reserved, when now if you look at the certain statement, they're not even changing any card names or anything. They're like, yeah, we'll still, if they get a reprint, they're still going to be named this. So, but it's just, it's just created like this atmosphere now, in my opinion, that didn't need to happen.
They had the perfect, okay, this is going to be a criticism against Wizards of the Coast and not a criticism of the people freaking out. But Wizards of the Coast had the perfect opportunity to rename Kaladesh under the context of what happened under March of the Machines. Mm-hmm. Rather than renaming it to, for modern sensibilities or whatever fucking horse shit. Instead you rename it because, let's say, the plane was torn asunder and it became a different place. So they renamed it Avishkar. Like, you had the opportunity there. And who knows, maybe they will, when Ether Drift comes out, maybe we'll see more of that. And maybe I'm just kind of talking out of my ass. But it seems like they had the opportunity to do that and then they didn't. And instead they used the scapegoat of social justice to and that's all it feels like. It feels like a scapegoat more than anything. And one of my problems with that is the reaction to it and the people freaking out about it or whatever, about it being offensive, is saying, okay, well, let's turn this up a bit, right? Because the term black used in a negative connotation like that, okay, well, what about the color black in Magic? Why is it associated with bad things and demons and swamps and bubbling mires and all that stuff? And why is white considered to be like a more positive or more valiant descriptor for that color? It's just like, if you really want to go tit for tat on that, what are we going to do? Are we going to rename white into ivory or something? Like, what are we going to do here? And so it's just like, is this, are you actually mad about this? Or are you just theme of the week mad about it? Because I don't think people are going to remember this a month from now.
Yeah, again, like I said, the official response, and I'm now a little more empathetic to it too. Because it's like, okay, I can see, we try to get, and now that's been brought to our attention, how this can be, and the jury's still out too, because I'm still have yet to see the receipts on how, the more I Google this and stuff, it's like, it's very, very tough. Like, if it was such an issue, we probably would have heard about this a lot sooner, the whole thing. And then I was just I was talking to earlier, Spanish board games that use the term black, it's oftentimes they just still use the term, they use the I was looking up this one, a game that came off the top of my head was called Black Angel. It's a futuristic space game, board game, and the Russian version was Chorny Angel, which translates perfectly to Black Angel, and then they had it in Japanese, Korean, and the Spanish version was Black Angel, and everything on the rest of the
instead of having Negro there or whatever it is.
Yeah. And so, because I know that I think that they've gotten used to, okay, if we use that term, it's just going to cause unnecessary issues. And so I can see from the standpoint of Wizards of the Coast, they could have done we're kind of sorry for this. It was not, it wasn't intended. And I think that's how their post kind of was. But again, it's after the fact with their little official busybodies that then chime in, they pipe. And then, of course, what do you think they're going to get from the free Magic community and that they know they're going to get the other people. They're going to buy them all up, or going back to the Crusade, Jihad was Jihad actually? Yeah, it was a banned card too.
Yeah,
Crusade, Jihad, those ones. It's they're only.
Which Jihad is just, it's holy war, right?
Yeah,
in Arabic or something like
Crusade,
that.
Yeah, Crusade. I don't know, and that's the whole thing too. It's
so
historic. Who cares?
There are that's the thing is whatever could have been offensive about Kaladesh is already in the past. It's already a decade old. Same with the cards that got banned after the fact, like 4 or 5 years ago, is that a lot of these, there was one problem card and it was Invoke Prejudice.
Oh yeah.
That was the one. That's all you needed to do. But then they decided to overextend, and then they hit like Pygmy something, whatever it is, Crusade, Jihad, and like 4 or 5 other cards. But all it does is it just shines a light, and it's just a pockmark on the history of Magic more than it is anything else. And it to me, it hurts the brand more.
Well, there's a lot of people too. Like, they didn't go far enough because there was like the ogre that people wanted to ban, like Earthbind. There's like all sorts of other ones that are always been.
Well, I mean, since free Magic has such a negative connotation with the Magic community, as it were, just get rid of, because their logo is Orcish Conscripts, I believe, the one where it's like picking its nose. Yeah, just ban that.
Again, what is it like? If you want to look for things get offended, you can get offended by everything. And at this point, like, it should be toned down. And I'm not sure where I stand now with this Kaladesh thing. I think that it's the reaction now that I'm more,
very silly.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Let's look at the time. Oh shit, we are coming up on 2 hours here. So, hey, you know what? This is perfect timing. We're on our final subject. If you are listening to this podcast, comment peach smoothie. That'll let me know if you're watching all the way to the end. Donald, I think you're watching. I'm calling you out. I want to see peach smoothie in the comments section. Now, let's go ahead and move on to our final subject here, which is our favorite YouTuber or content creator for the year. Kevin, who is your favorite?
Gotta go with MTG Remy.
Classic. That's the guy who does the songs, right?
Yeah. What I love about MTG Remy too is he's navigated this so he has he's very political, but he doesn't put any of it in Magic, like none. He completely has separated his people don't know he was kind of I wouldn't call him a YouTube star, but he did videos for Reason TV, which is a very libertarian. That's where I knew him from before. And I love how the fact that I always see these comments of these known commies basically in the Magic community. Oh, I love your videos. I'm like, do they know who Remy is? And he's navigated quickly, and I just love how Remy's just done a good job with his keeping everything lighthearted and fun with his YouTube channel. So I've been a big fan of MT Remy.
I don't think I've watched any of his stuff lately. Well, were there any particular highlights this year that he did that
he just does a lot of funny skits. That's
All right. Okay. Cool. I'll have to watch his stuff again because I remember he did a lot of not remixes but singing to lyrics of old 80s songs and stuff, and I've seen him on TikTok too, and he's blown up on TikTok as well.
I love all his references. So I've been around in Magic for a long time, and it's like these cards and interactions that newer people it's just whoosh, it's going over their heads. But and I love how he goes back to the days we did those are some of my videos. The first person to figure out the counter spell was good, or Swords of Plowshare was good, type thing. Yep. And it reminds me of when we were eating Lion's Eye diamonds, or we thought that fetch lands were the worst thing ever. Because why in the world would you want to pay 1 life
to go find a forest?
It's so stupid. It's the stupidest thing ever. And then now we're oh, things have changed. And so it's all the parodies and stuff are great from him. So
awesome. Well, my favorite content creator of the year is Wubby. Wubby Magic Mondays in particular. Are you familiar with Wubby at all?
Wubby, huh? Wubby. He's the one that does stuff with the Packers with penguins. What's his? What kind of thing?
Charlie.
Charlie, yeah.
Yeah. Critical.
Yeah, but I've seen some of his videos every now and again, but
he's my favorite of this year for a couple reasons. The first one being I was already a secondary or a tertiary fan of Wubby because my girlfriend used to watch a lot of his streams, so I became aware of him as a result, and I was already kind of used to his shenanigans. And he's a very creative streamer, and he's also the type of guy where he doesn't necessarily take any shit and he just says what he says. And well, he got into Magic, and because he has a lot of money, he got really into Magic and a lot of the vintage based stuff. And he became known as the guy who not only has like the really cool expensive cards, but he's also known as the guy that helped expose the vintage secondary market and showcase just how corrupt it is and how common it is to where you'll buy an old box of like beta or something and it's just repacked or whatever. And like this happened so commonly that it really actually did shine a light in this aspect of the industry. And I feel like that's going to be, as the years go on, it's going to help actually with a lot of these old sets and really just shine a light on, hey, you know, your $10,000 booster box case might be fake and you should look more closely into what it is that you're buying. And also there's other aspects of his channel that he's done that I really liked. Like, he has a Commander series, but there was one game in particular where every single player was playing with slabbed decks. And I thought that was super funny and creative. And that's the kind of stuff that I like to see. Like, I've been around the block long enough. We've all watched videos long enough to the point where I feel like we as a collective audience can determine that Magic content in general has been generic and played out, and there hasn't really been much innovation over the past couple of years. However, I feel like people like Wubby, and honestly people like Remy. I mean, he's been doing his thing for a while, but it is a bit of a refresher. It is outside of normal expectations for what you'd see with Magic content, and I want to see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to check out more of his content. Like I said, little clips have come up from here and there, but I noticed he was on some of the, he's been, you know, making it mainstream. He's been on some of the Commander.
He also got banned from Wizards.
Did he?
Yeah, like, because well, I don't know if he's still banned or whatever, but he's been like a fairly outspoken kind of guy. And
well, that's what surprises me, because I'm seeing some of these channels he's been on, like the Tulare Community Colleges and stuff, that, you know, they're no little ostracizer. But I guess money talks, right? So if you get big enough, then they all of a sudden forget about their
exactly. Well, he was supposed to have some sort of like public facing event with Wizards, but apparently he said something on one of his streams that,
is he too problematic?
Yeah, that made him too problematic. And honestly, that's a good sign. You know, I kind of want to see that in people. So good for him. So tell me, now that we're nearing the end of the episode, we can't leave the year without some controversy. Tell me about the content creator that has bothered you the most this year.
Okay, so after the Kaladesh thing, of course, another thing too. Pleasant Kenobi. Can't stand the guy.
Good old Vince.
Cannot stand the guy. And the content's not bad. Like, he puts out decent content. But this is what I can't stand more than anything, is that people are like, let's not bring politics into stuff, and, you know, or have this sort of like high and mighty, like his whole shtick is to go after people that might have a problem with something, and then like it's so hypocritical because he's the same type of person that is the type of person gets up in arms over dumb crap.
Yeah.
And but he likes to crap on people to get in, you know, up in arms over dumb crap.
That's the thing that's always bothered me with him, is like he's always teetered on that edge. He's like the type of person that would be canceled, but he says just the right amount of things to not. And
he's a canceller himself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so the pretension from this guy, I just can't stand him. And I don't, you know, I think he was post my time. Like, he got big after I quit.
I gotta look at the subs again.
I'm not claiming I was ever big, but I was decent for that time period. Like 30,000 subscribers back when I had 30,000 subscribers, which was a pretty good accomplishment. So I've noticed a lot of people have got up to 30,000. It doesn't feel like they had kind of the reach and the significance that, you know, back then what it was to hit. So, because I used to know everybody in this market. I used to know the big names at the time. Right. So I don't think I've ever had any, like, you know, face-to-face or any sort of interaction with him. So it doesn't come from that. I just know that a lot of times this stuff just pops my feed, and going over the Kaladesh stuff when I was Googling it, a lot of his tweets were coming back and the back and forth. And like,
on Twitter, he's the worst.
This guy just like the
the
hypocrisy
absolute fucking
within
worst.
his own tweets when he was like telling people they can't act away, and then turns around and acts like twice as bad. Of the eye rolling.
I'm not a big fan of British language, but
Well, okay, then he tried to do
anything,
that.
that
Well, if
dude
I'm
is the
offensive,
definition of a twat.
I'm British. I get it. I
Yeah.
get a pass because British people are just sometimes we rough on the edges and say offensive things, so I get a pass for it. And like the same thing that
Fuck
everyone else
you.
said. This little ilk, yeah, his little other ilk too. Like, oh, he's British.
Right.
Wizard of the Coast too. He gets this British pass of being able to be offensive, and somehow if they do it, it's like kind of has this comic value to it. So like he can be an absolute frother. He can. But if anyone else has an opinion on anything, then they need to tone it down.
Like,
No one cares about your opinion.
exactly. And this isn't a personal knock against him or his content. I mean, like, I personally don't really like it. I've tried to engage with his content over and over again, but to me, it just feels very rudimentary, and I don't really get anything from it. But the way he portrays himself on the internet in his YouTube videos, it's fine. It's whatever. But it's like when he's on Twitter and you look at it, and sure, he could say like, oh, I'm just being abrasive for the sake of it, and it's all just jokes or whatever. But at the same time, it's just like, Jesus Christ, dude. How do I say this in a nice way? I guess we'll go pound for pound with British. He's acting like a cunt, very much so.
Yeah. Well, I remember the Twitter little spat that I saw is like, so someone like responded back to his like thing with just some sort of like edgy comment, and then he responded back like, yeah, this is the glad you actually contributed to this dialogue, type
Shut up.
comment with your
Christ.
type. Well then someone else responds to him and actually like kind of well thought out rebuttal to what he was saying, and then he responds back with the same like no brain, like emotional reaction type thing. So like, thanks for contributing to this discussion with this.
Right.
Like, he's a hypocrite. That's what I can't stand about him. So
I think he would be better off if he didn't have a Twitter account. Honestly,
yeah.
If
Well, I
he
mean, he
just
gets
stuck
embraced
with
in
YouTube
his videos too. That's I'm like again calling out people that like there have been some legit concerns with some of these things. Like going back to the Kaladesh. Like my whole problem with Kaladesh is this the boy that cries wolf. How many times are people going to cry racism, sexism, whatever ism over and over and over? We're just so numb to it now.
Yep.
And to call that, I'm like, can we just chill out with this stuff? And then we get people like him that will like, like, no, this
fuel
isn't.
to the fire.
We're just trying to make the world a better place, and you're this thing. You're the problem. I bet you're the problem. And then results the same like insults of, yeah. So
very exhausting. He's quite an exhausting topic, and to get onto an even more exhausting topic that I know it is for you personally, my least favorite content creator for the year 2024 is Tolarian Community College. There isn't a specific thing about him that I dislike. It is a culmination of what I have observed over the last decade of watching his content. I've seen how he acts on Twitter and all this kind of stuff, but it really kind of kicked into gear in like the last year and a half, and it's become more apparent that Tolarian Community College is less of a channel about the professor, as it's more or less about the guests that he has on and the people that work on his videos. Like, he's gotten to a certain point, and you see this a lot with a lot of larger YouTubers that, hire a crew, is you get to see the creator being taken out of the videos, even though that guy is still there in front of the camera. And that's why, to me, he's the least interesting and the one that I felt the most justified in unsubscribing from and not even following anymore, is because one, it's not the same guy that I enjoyed watching, but two, it's also the watching a husk, kind of writhe around. And it's not the Tolarian Community College channel anymore. It's the Shuffle Up and Play channel. Now, granted, not every single video is a Shuffle Up and Play channel, But it sure is the most popular videos on his channel, and it's the series that definitely gets the most views and everything. And at a certain point, you know, it's to me, it's just not about the professor anymore, and that's why I just don't like it.
It is kind of sad too because like I've had this love-hate relationship with Brian for a long time, but yeah, I noticed that in one of his videos. Now that you mentioned this, it was one of those like unboxing videos, and he was like trying to guess the prices, and he was trying to play up like, oh, I'm just an idiot, old out of touch person. I don't know these cards or what they're worth, and my editor is gonna have to do all this stuff, and I bet I'm way like he's overplaying. The guy used to be incredibly passionate about like he was the expert in like his channel started by reviewing accessories. That's how he got big. Because he did it in such like people generally would want to Google a product and see if anyone has done it. He was a review channel.
Yep.
And he did the best ones, and he was so good at it, and he was so unbiased, and he put so much time and quality. We all kind of envied him. We're like, man, I wish I had the work ethic of the guy because he did great videos. And that's like when I had my falling out with him too, I still liked his content, and still liked his the effort that he put into it. And that's what kind of made me kind of even more sad about the fallout is because I still enjoyed. He put out some bangers of stuff, and then and he still does every now and again. I'll see some videos pop up where he'll have some good videos. But yeah, those are really rough to watch. Like when you can tell he doesn't give it.
I'm just an old man yelling at the clouds, and
my editor's like, throw this up on here.
Attention. It's like, well, then why the fuck are you here? Like, why is this not just a channel of your editors and your channel partners? Like, why am I?
When I get burnout. I mean, that's the problem with like 2024 was what the big year of all the like the Matt, Pat, and the like so many was that last year? It's already been a year since that. Was that 2023 was the big year? But all these like the burnout where all these people are like, okay, we're gonna turn this channel over to people because the passion's gone. And I mean, I think this is kind of what happens is if you just keep like. I understand it with him though too. He's got to keep pumping out these contents. Like the YouTube algorithm is
got
merciless.
Mouths to feed. Yeah, he's got a crew and they expect a paycheck. So I understand, but fuck, dude, at what cost? Like at that point, like.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to find or link that video too because it was just sad when he's opening up. Oh, it's just like a $4, and he was being like, it's not worth that. It's like you're playing this up. This whole, oh well.
Just not a big fan of it. And like I remember I posted on something about it to Reddit, and somebody commented that I had graduated from Tolarian Community College. And I'm like, damn, that's fucking perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, the guy, like as much as beef I've had with him, he's played a very pivotal role in just the entire.
Absolutely. Yep. He's if anything, the half the reason why Magic is in the state it's in regards to the larger like pop culture in general, he's a big reason why.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
However, I just don't feel like that's the case anymore.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe he's aware of that too, and maybe that's why he's doing this whole shuffle up and play as like a way to prop up other people. Then hopefully, other people can take the reins and be the next future of Magic, because I swear to God, if I see this guy 10 years from now still making the same things, he lives here in town somewhere. I could probably go find him. I'll go knock on his door and be like, hey, can I like work for you? I'd rather sit in front of the camera and do my bitching because I can't stand you anymore.
Oh man, see, I should have kept with it with the rogue deck builder and just like passed it on, right, and still make the
get your 1 million subscribers and then retire and pass it on
and
to
then pass it on to someone else
or someone.
Just get a nice little paycheck and
cash
sit
out.
my little latte in Ukraine somewhere.
Oh. Well, all right. Well, I think that's going to be it for our lists. Oh man, we're coming up right under 2 hours. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who watched, and make sure to subscribe to all 27 of Kevin's channels.
Yeah,
I'll have them linked down below, and make sure you keep watching my episodes, subscribe, like all that other kind of fun stuff. Anyways, we have been the Mana Dorks. You all have been lovely, and we'll catch you on the flip side.